They say opposites attract.
Well, how about these opposites? Daddies and sons.
You're listening to Daddy and Son.
A podcast where we explore the dynamics of daddy and son relationships, multi-generational views,
And everything else in between.
Ladies and gentlemen, theys and gays, daddies and sons.
Ho, ho, ho.
Ho, ho, ho. At least I hope that's what y'all are doing out there. 'Tis the season to be hoeing. It's cold outside.
Where we are.
Well, at least where we are.
Yeah.
Baby, it's cold outside. Anyhow, we are gathered here today for some good old-fashioned day drinking and celebration. Cheers!
Cheers.
Because what? We have come to the end of the year. We have made it. We have, as a race, gone through so much this year. And we have officially done 25 podcasts in this first season of Daddy and Son.
Amazing.
Woo! How do you feel about that, Norm?
Well, I'll tell you. We met our objective. 25 was what we wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was asking you how many subscribers. So you've got some data to report today. I'm really looking forward to seeing how we did.
Oh, yeah, I'll report some data. Absolutely. For those of us who are probably just joining us for the first time, because I actually learned yesterday that a manager in my company, because he sent me, we were discussing AI in our town hall yesterday, and he sent me notebook.lm, which we discussed on the dark side of AI. And he sent it to me and said, "Oh, did you know that we have access to this through our Google Enterprise account?" To which I was surprised, and I said to him, "No, this is something that I reported on." He said, "I know. I listened to it on your podcast." And I didn't even know that he listens.
Wow.
So I'm now thinking to myself, how deep does the rabbit hole go? And how much do I need to start censoring myself?
Because I was thinking the very same thing. So, this is the new version, isn't it, of AI?
Notebook.lm?
Mm-hmm.
It's Google's version of ChatGPT.
Right. Okay. It's Google's version.
It's Google's version of an AGI, but it is also
Techie.
it also does a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah, I heard it was a bit of an improvement or
It's the remember when we actually had that
session on it?
the podcast
Yep.
that was done by AI, and the AI didn't even know that it was AI. That was generated from notebook.lm.
Oh, okay. The AI didn't know it was AI? Well, they should introduce themselves to each other.
The AI was shooketh. It was, "How dare you tell me I'm not AI? How dare you tell me I don't have rights?"
Well, I'm going to substitute the real Norm for the AI Norm one of these podcasts.
Well, one of these days.
Well,
you'll have a filler.
Well, you can do that now. I mean, I was listening to something the other day where there was an interview going on. One was an AI and one was a real reporter.
Oh.
Yeah. Conversational AI.
Well, ideas for 2025. We can try that out sometime.
Well, we'll have to find the AI person to do that. But anyway, that's
what Notebook LM is for.
okay.
And for those of us who are listening for the first time, my name is Alex.
And I'm Norm.
And I am Son.
And I am Daddy most of the time. Although sometimes I'm treated like son, but we won't go there right now.
Welcome back to a new episode, a bonus episode, if you like. Ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to just wrap up the year, kind of go through some of our accomplishments for 2024, and, you know, kind of unpack what our vision is for 2025. How do you feel about that, Norm?
Well, bonuses are always very nice, aren't they?
I think so.
You more than me, but we won't go there either.
You know how, I don't know if you've seen this, but you know how, have you ever gotten a notification of getting a Wrapped from Spotify or Apple? Do you listen to Apple Music or
No.
Spotify? Yeah,
Getting a what?
a notification about a Wrapped, like a 2024 Wrapped. They do it every year.
What's a Wrapped?
So, okay, so I'm guessing that you haven't seen it yet. And basically, what it is that they send you a notification that it's a presentation of all your statistics for the year.
Oh,
It will tell you what songs you most listened to, what percentage you are of that particular artist's fans. As an example, for mine,
never had that. Never
it
seen
said
it.
I was in the top 1% of Mariah Carey listeners in the entire world.
Well, you should get a free ticket to her next conference, or
I sh-
concert, rather.
The conference. The conference. You can tell.
You see what I mean? I get treated like the sun.
I can tell your stature in life when you're like at the conference. You're too elitist for the rest of us.
No.
Norm.
I just thinking of business. You know, I was at a conference last week. Okay,
You're
I
so
thought-
businessy. But yeah, and it said that my top listens were Owl City, which is a band, Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, surprisingly, and she's more for newer artists, but not really new. Lana Del Rey. Those were my top 5. And
I had Whitney Houston on the top in the 90s.
well, I don't think they had Wrapped in the 90s.
No, but I know I was in the top anyway.
Or you were in the top, or you were the top. Which one?
Well, both. But
But
my point is that you like an artist that's been around for a while. Well, she's no longer with us, of course, but she had some great music in the 90s. Who was the last artist you said? Because I've got to confess, I've never heard of her.
Lana Del Rey, she's amazing. She's like a jazz alternative artist, modern artist, so good, brilliant. When I say brilliant, I mean brilliant artist. I love her so much. And yeah, she was in my top 5 of listenership.
Can I ask, when do you listen to music? Is it when you're in the car, or when you're working out, or when you're walking, or just at home?
All the above. I listen to
Okay.
music when I am cooking. I'll just throw it on. I have both speakers, so the neighbors have to listen to good music. They have no choice. I also listen to it when I'm walking to the gym, when I'm driving to Costco, and I'm stuck on the Don Valley parking lot. I listen to it while I'm running on the treadmill.
Okay,
So
so you're a multi-functional,
Yeah.
multimodal music appreciator.
Of
Okay,
course,
yeah.
music is it's what moves me. I have this philosophy that anybody who is at the gym that doesn't work out with earpods or headphones or something in their ears or music at all, they're just working out to the sound of revenge. That's somebody who is going to shoot somebody in the middle of Central Park.
Now hold on. Some people like peace and quiet while they're working out. I do have
Yeah,
those ear pods in my
sociopaths.
ear, but I'm listening to podcasts. I don't usually
That gets
listen
you
to,
pumped?
Well, I do my thing and I leave the gym. Yeah, I guess I am pumped with podcasts. Like I'm
Interesting.
at home, I listen to sports and public affairs and news shows when I've got stuff on the TV. But that's great. I'm just not as much of a music. When I'm in the car, love music. But I haven't done much driving lately. So I need to
Get out of town.
get out of town more. Yes. Or get a job. You don't want to drive in Toronto for those of you that do any driving around the city, but
Honey,
You do a lot of driving here.
enjoy your retirement. I know. If
I'm
I'm
not
even going
retiring.
two blocks down the street, I'm driving. I can't.
Listen, I may have an announcement in a couple of weeks about something, so I'm not quite ready to retire.
This is the problem with your generation. You don't want to stop. You don't want to enjoy life
Well, I'm enjoying life.
by taking away jobs from young people.
This would not be a job that a young person could do.
It could, if you coach them.
No.
That's what I had to do at work. I had to put my foot down and said, "Hey, I need executive coaching." But why is it that I had to ask for this? Why can't your generation just say, "You know what? I want to retire and I'm going to put it together as a succession plan." What is wrong with you people?
I don't work for a big company.
It's greed.
That fits in a big company.
Uh-huh.
It's not greed. It's I want to remain active. I like what I do. Just like you love music, I like doing stuff.
Okay. All right.
And forgive me, ladies and gentlemen,
Tomatoes and tomatoes.
you have put some wonderful mixed nuts down here for us to have with our drink.
Well,
By
you're
the way,
welcome.
what are we drinking?
Well, again, cheers. Today we're having a nice glass of cava to celebrate what we have accomplished and for coming to the end of the year. Courtesy of you. Thank you, Norm. You are
I have good
forever the taste maker and also the perfect daddy.
Oh, thank you very much. Oh, you're the perfect son. Son of a bitch sometimes, but definitely son.
I can't with you. I can't with you. So let's jump into some statistics. So we did have a goal for 2025 to get to 100 subscribers.
Yes.
We are short of 15.
Oh, okay.
In the last 30 days, however, we've had 557 plays.
Oh,
We've had quite a bit. We've gone into the thousands in terms of plays. The amount of replays that we've had per person, 8 of our listeners have listened to our podcast at least more than once, right? And we've had 1 new subscriber within the last week. So we're slowly getting there.
is this on all of the platforms that it runs on or just Apple?
This is only on Spotify.
Oh, okay, okay,
Apple has its own different stats.
okay.
So the reason I was asking about the replay or the Wrapped,
Okay.
it's because we also get our own Wrapped. The show itself gets
Okay.
its own Wrapped.
From Apple. Okay.
Yes.
But it would get it, what, after the new year starts?
No, we
or-
get it now.
Okay.
We get it now. So just as how you as a listener get your statistics on what shows or what music you listen to most throughout the year, we get one as well as a show. So it's great to see the analytics and see some of the beautiful things that come through. So it's quite interesting because you will never believe this. We actually have female listeners, and I think I told you this. Like even my ex-boss was one of them. Not a high percentage,
No.
but shout out to all the female listeners
Yeah.
out there. 12.5% of our listeners are women.
That's amazing.
1% identify as trans, and 87% identify as men.
Okay.
So, and this is going to even shock you more. Majority of our listeners are actually young people between the age of 18 to 22.
I'm not surprised.
You're not?
No.
That did surprise me.
Well, I'm not surprised that the majority of listeners are younger, although 18 to 22 is a really young demographic, isn't it? Like
That really did surprise me.
Yeah.
18 to 22 at 37.5%.
yeah.
That is really high.
So what does that tell you, I wonder?
I think it tells me that,
That's interesting.
contrary to our belief that there is a divide between older men and younger folks, especially in the queer community, who are interested in younger men who are interested in older men, or vice versa. We think that there's a larger gap or a larger divide, or one desires the other more. But clearly, and when I say one desires the other more, the assumption is that older men desire younger guys
More so than
more so than the opposite way around.
And that statistic says, wow, that shows a lot of interest in the daddy.
And the
population.
daddies, exactly.
You know, that's interesting because anecdotally,
Mm-hmm.
I have noticed, I guess in the last year, and this isn't because of our podcast,
Uh-huh.
there are a lot of younger guys I've noticed are communicating with me and other older men. And I'm thinking, okay, what do you want to talk about?
That is a very good question. What do you want to talk about?
Well, you know what? Often they want to talk. They just want to talk, which I find really interesting.
Because
They want to know what I'm doing. They want to know, what do you do? That's one of the most frequent questions. I think they're looking for role models.
I could believe that.
Mm-hmm.
I could believe that. One of the things that I oftentimes ask when older guys hit on me online, I oftentimes ask, well, what are you interested in me for? Because if you're in your 60s, I'm in my 20s, and you're hitting me up, what you ask a very important question just now. What do you want to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have much in common.
And then you have to figure out if the one is more interested in a conversation than the other. You got to come up with a creative reason to keep it going, right?
Exactly. Because there's nothing worse than a young I like older
finish.
guys
Okay.
that are not sensitive. Because there's nothing worse than a young person who has to censor what they say because they don't want to make an older person feel uncomfortable.
Well, it takes a lot to make me feel uncomfortable.
Well, that's good.
You know, I mean, you've already said a few things during this conversation, like that we're greedy and stuff like that.
I mean, did I lie?
I let it pass over my head. We're no more or less greedy than anybody else.
Enjoy your retirement.
And greedy is not what it's about. It's about living life to its fullest.
Oh, okay.
But I
By
digress.
working.
Well, it's not all work. This is what I'm talking about right now is part-time work. I don't want to work full-time. Of course not.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a fair assessment. That is a fair assessment.
But I'm interested in the statistic about 37%.
37.5.
God, that's
18 to 22.
That is amazing. That shows there's definitely, it shows there's a gap. It shows there's a need for what we're doing, for this podcast, doesn't it?
And I think when 2025, when we expand our reach, when we really hit the ground running, get some marketing going, get some advertising going, I think the end of 2025 will show the true stats, because there's a huge gap. So between 23 to 27, we have none of the listeners are within that age bracket. We have another spike between 28 to 34 at 36%. So also in the youth category, right? And that also makes up for the percentage of the 12.5% of females that listen to us.
Well, question, how many daddies listen to this?
Good question. So, of the 40, so from age 45 and up, 12.5%, and 35 to 44, also 12.5%.
Okay.
So again, it is showing that there is, so basically from age 55 and up, 9% of people. It's showing that not a lot of daddies are, and maybe it's the mode.
Yeah, they're not into the technology.
They're
I
not in the
suspect.
technology. maybe we don't know. You're a daddy. You can tell me. Are your peers listening to podcasts?
I don't know. I don't know what they're listening to when they have ear pods in their ears. So and you know what? When do I see daddies? Well, I see sometimes at the gym. But where else would I see them? On the street, maybe?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
Don't you have daddy friends?
a couple.
Exactly.
They definitely don't listen to podcasts.
Well, you see, that's part of the problem. I will tell you this.
They're missing out, though.
They are missing out.
I get a lot of my news now and not so much entertainment, but, well, you know me. I like public affairs and newsy stuff.
That's entertaining to you. Uh-huh.
Okay, well, it's informing.
Uh-huh.
You know, it helps me in my citizen responsibilities.
Allegedly.
Carry on.
Remember what I was saying last week when we were debating about the elections and how people are being reached.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, 14% of voters were reached through podcasts in the last US election. I believe that this is the way of the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that that's part of the reason. Did you see Trump's interview? The recent interview that he had with the
podcaster.
No.
Oh, on the NBC person.
NBC.
Yeah, I did
Right.
watch that. And Meet the Press. Yeah, I watched
Meet
that.
the Press.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I put this on Do Not Disturb, and this it's madre. I apologize for that, folks. Let me fix that. So yeah, on Meet the Press, and they were talking about why did Trump decide to do the podcast tour, and he said, "Well, my son
That's right.
told me to do it."
Yes, that's right.
I've been saying
that
this
answer, yes.
for the longest time. The boomers are fading out. The typical voting class are fading out. It's now time to reach the Gen Xers, the millennials, and the older generation of Gen Zs who are of voting age. If you are not listening to young people, you are falling behind. And I do believe that is a huge deficit with Democrats. And it goes back to what I was saying previously about conservatives here in Canada about having a short-lived term. And when I say a short-lived term, I don't mean that they're not going to do their full 4 years. I mean, unless people call a no confidence, typically like what is going on right now with Trudeau. But
well,
it could mean that it's only a single term run. We need to start listening to young people.
Well, you know what? The Tories are doing that. The Conservatives are, and they're finding that young people are becoming more conservative in their attitudes.
That is true. That is true. That is actually true.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's oppositional defiance. I'm going to be honest. I do think it's oppositional defiance.
What does that mean? You mean they're just fed up with the current system and they're switching over to something else?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that is precisely it.
Well, yeah. I mean, they see that the current culture isn't kind of working for them, so let's try something else.
But that's because that's all they know. Remember, the current administration has been...
Are you talking Canada or the U.S. here?
I'm talking about here.
All right, Canada. All right.
The young people, especially the young people who are now of voting class, it's all they know. All they know
is left of center,
is
climate change.
That's all they have known their entire life.
The warm and fuzzy stuff.
They don't know what life was like before liberals came into power. They don't know.
Well, liberals have been in power
and if they do know, it's secondhand information.
Well, you're right. The parties in power need to reach younger voters because that's where the future is. The truth, though, is that as a voting class, older voters tend to vote in a greater percentage than younger voters. So they're still important.
That's changing, though.
Okay, I'd like to see numbers on that.
That's changing. But that's for another podcast.
Yeah,
We'll talk about
that's
that
political
another time.
behavior. I took a course in political behavior years and years and years ago, but that's a really good political sort of thing to talk about
That's
when we're talking politics.
But funny enough that you should ask about that, because looking at the age bracket, not just and kind of juxtapositioning this topic against voting class or voting age. Again, we are seeing that more young people are involved in engagement.
Yes, in the public affairs
In
and
public
what's going
affairs,
on. Yes,
exactly.
And that is a good thing, because they are going to be running the show when yours truly is making his exit, and others like me.
Oh, no, that's like you.
And you think I'm ready to make my exit now? No, I'm not. I'm still here.
We have listens from over 14 countries.
That is amazing. Do we know which countries?
We do.
Oh,
The top country, however, is Canada.
all right.
However, let me.
And that's not surprising, because most of the people we've reached out to are here in Toronto or Ontario or the rest of the country. But we do want to reach listeners all over the world, because this is a topic, it's a human topic, right?
It is. So while Canada was the top country, the youngest listeners actually came from Jamaica. We had listeners from Europe, predominantly the UK, which is not surprising. We had listeners from the US, 12% actually. And we also had listeners from Latin America, which is interesting. One of the things that I'm seeing here
Es bueno.
es muy bueno. One of the things that I'm seeing here is that the fans of our show, because it tells us what other shows our fans listen
Yes,
to.
I'm seeing that on your laptop.
And they also listen to shows like the Joe Rogan Experience,
Yes.
Tony and Ryan, Dun Sparse and Drampa. I don't know what that is, and Gay Men Going Deeper, which
No.
sounds like competition to me. But
Well, do they listen to the Chug Toddcast or the Daily from the New York Times or the Journal from the Wall Street Journal?
I don't think they're that type of audience, honey.
Well, we need to expand our reach, don't we?
That would be nice.
I mean, I kind of wonder what do daddies listen to? What do people in the boomer generation listen to in podcasts? I wonder how we would find that out.
Well, you can look at your Wrapped and let us know.
Okay, I'll figure out how to get my Wrapped.
It is interesting to see that our most listened episode is their life after being ghosted.
So people are interested in relationships. That's what that tells me.
Apparently.
Yeah.
It was our top listened episode. And the fan favorite, the episode with the most repeats, was the actual Daddy and Son episode.
The first one, you mean?
The first one.
Okay. This is really helpful information, because, this is good stuff to know which direction to take this in the coming year.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we're only on the first year of doing this, so I think that's pretty good. And we've had fun.
We've had so much fun. For quite a few of our fans, for 33 of our fans, we were in their top 10 most listened for the entire year. And that's the 33 out of the 91 people that listen to us, the 91 subscribers. top 33 of them had us in their top 10
So we have small core of very devoted
of
listeners.
very devoted listeners.
Okay, which is good to build on.
Which is great. So if you're listening right now, please share us. Please continue to share us.
Yeah, give us
With-
feedback. What do you like? What do you don't like?
Engage with us, especially if you're on the YouTube. Engage with us. We want you to engage with us. We want you to tell us what it is that you want to see. What is it that you want to talk about? Ask us questions. We will respond. Let us know. And keep the conversation going. So, especially to the young people, shout out to young people. Just want to give all the young people a round of applause.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for staying with us throughout 2024. We really appreciate it. I'm sure Norm does. I do too. This is really great to have you guys here with us, especially given that most of you are even well below my age.
Yeah.
I mean, 18 to 22, that's crazy.
I'm interested in the sudden drop off in the 22 to 23 to 27. And
Yeah, 23 to 27 is 0%.
I'm wondering, why would that be? Is it they're more focused on trying to finish their education or get a job, or that's just kind of weird. There's nobody in that cohort. And I had another thought. It just left my head, but these stats are really interesting. I mean, it's we really need to. This is great stuff for next year. We'll have to
I can
come
see
up
the
with some
wheels
idea.
turning.
Mm-hmm.
I see the wheels turning. So, well, you know what? I would like to take a moment to kind of do a recap.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a quick break,
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
then we'll do a year in recap. How's that sound?
Okay.
And we are back. So, our first episode, which was released actually, ironically, last December,
Wow.
was called Daddy and Son. Self-titled. And we kind of focused on introducing ourselves, and we spoke about daddy and son relationships and what it means to be a daddy and what does son means, and kind of explored the dynamics. It's ironic that it is one of the one of the fan favorites because it's one of the most repeated episodes. While it is not the most listened to episodes, but it's the one with the most repeats. What do you think about that?
I think it's good. I
think it tells me that a lot of people were curious.
Yeah, it was novel.
It was novel.
Yeah.
Especially to our straight listeners. What is a daddy and son relationship?
Yeah, you and I kind of take that for granted that we know what it is, but you're right.
There are people who don't.
Yeah, that's true.
We probably need to.
And that's why the young people are the most inquisitive. They're wondering, I kind of like these older guys. Is that normal? Like, why am I thinking this? And so they're curious, and there's a lot of them on there. And that's an age. I know what I was going to say a minute ago.
What's that?
I read a book a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The author is a person by the name of Gail Sheehy, and she the title of the book is Passages, Predictable Crisis in Adult Life. And she went through each decade of a person's life. And I always remember, because I remember reading this book when I was about 29 or 30, and she called the 20s the turbulent 20s. And a young person just leaving their teenage years, going into their 20s, they got a ton of questions about life. And it takes a long time to sort that out. And the 20s this is a book she wrote, let's face it, 40 or 50 years ago. But I imagine it's probably the same today. So, but I'm really curious that there's nobody in that 23 to 27 category. I would really like to understand that better.
Ma'am, there's nothing there for you. Get away from the front door.
Alex is talking to his dog.
I'm sorry. No, I agree with you. It's an age of
Exploring.
exploring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to figure it out.
You know, like when you're in your twos, the terrible twos?
Well, I have a little bit
You have the
of a
terrible
more
twos and the
difficult.
turbulent 20s.
Well, I was told about my terrible twos, but I do remember my turbulent 20s a lot better.
To the best of my recollection, your 20s is when you kind of figured out that you like guys.
Well, yeah, that's when well, you know what? There's a lot of younger people that recognize that now. I didn't when I was 20. I kind of had a feeling I did, but I didn't have a name for it.
It's funny. I met a guy recently who is in his 40s who just realized that he liked guys. And he was married and has children.
Mm-hmm. I've heard of that.
It really shocked me that in the year of our Lord 2024 that's still a thing.
Well, different people develop at different rates, and their tastes change, and who knows why somebody goes through that. I mean, it wasn't until I was 30 that I kind of
Went through your metamorphosis.
Well, I kind of accepted, the inevitable of what I'd been thinking for a long time, but we're all different, right? But in this day and age, people are more readily, they know more quickly about their sexuality.
Mm-hmm. And this is what I'm talking about when I say that the kids today, they don't know anything else but liberalism. They don't. But I digress. I think much like what is happening in the US right now, our society is going to go through a period of fuck around and find out. And I will just sit back, sip my kaba, eat my nuts, and eat my popcorn and watch what unfolds. So, our next episode for the year, which was released in the later part of December, is called Text Me First. In this episode, we had discussed texting etiquette.
Oh, yes. Okay, I remember that.
And wanting folks to text before they call, and kind of going through the differences between, well, do you send an email still, or do you text? Do you send a text to let someone know that you send an email? And what's the
right etiquette?
What's the right etiquette when you're just going to call someone, especially if it's someone that you like? What do you think about that episode, looking back on it? And is there anything that you want to add to that?
Nothing, because I don't remember very much about it. I'm sorry. I really am not good at this, in the sense that I can go to a movie and a few days later I think, what was the movie about again?
Oh, dear.
And I had this problem 20 years ago.
Nothing has changed.
When I was in my 40s.
That's how you stay young. You don't really keep much in there, do you? I'm just playing.
That is a slam if I ever heard that. And it's funny. I think I remember proposing that topic too.
I think it was yours, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Norm, come on. At least remember the stuff that you put forward, for crying out loud.
But it's funny that this should come up now, because as recently as yesterday, right, a friend of mine emailed me something, and it was something that I kept asking them about since summer.
Wow.
And I was driving to Costco, and as I ended up calling them while I was stuck on the Don Valley parking lot, and I was like, "Hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling better?" Because they were sick.
Oh.
Have you emailed me the stuff yet? Sorry, have you sent me the stuff yet? They said, "Yeah, I sent it to you." I said, "I haven't received a text. What are you talking about?" They said, "I emailed it."
Oh.
I said, "Well, why would you email me when you know that I don't check my email very frequently?"
Why not?
Because the only time I check my email is for work. And I have a work email, and I have my private email. And if I don't know that somebody's going to send me something privately,
You don't check it.
I don't check it.
So if I'm going to send you an email, I should text you and say, Alex, check your email.
Exactly.
And you know what? I find I do that with people when I'm texting them. I do say, check your email, because I know people.
Because it's common sense.
And sometimes I don't look at my email. I mean, or I brush through it, and most of it's junk, and you can
Exactly.
easily overlook something.
This isn't 1992. It's just like, if you're going to email someone, let them know.
You've got mail.
Even I get that reference. Oh my God, I'm getting old.
Do you know, I had email in 92. It was work email. It was work email.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just starting. I remember the first time I got an email between an AOL account and another account. And that was like, holy Toledo, this really works. It used to be just within individual ISP or service provider.
Oh, really?
Yes. And then I think it went from AOL to InfoRamp, which is long gone. And I thought, oh, that's cool. Anyway, the point being that technology advances.
Yeah.
People advance, and you need new etiquettes and new methods of conforming socially to those new communication
That's
vehicles.
a conversation for next year's topic. I would really like to know, what is your take on the advancement of technology through the years? Because I was raised in the technology age. I was raised in the information age. When I was 6 years old, when I was old enough to go through my years of cognitive development, IT
was all around you.
The first encyclopedia that I owned was on a compact disc.
Wow.
It was on a CD-ROM. And it had videos, it had literature, it had voiceover explanation to things. That was the first encyclopedia that I interacted with as a child at the age of 6. I'm curious to know and my life has only gone up since then. I know what a floppy disk is because I was alive when it was phasing out, but I never used one, as an example. And I know children who are just less than 6 years older than me. Well, not children, but young adults who just see the floppy disk as a save icon. They don't know what it is.
Well, do you know what a typewriter is?
Well, I know what a typewriter is, but I've never seen one.
Okay. Well, that's what I use at university.
I've physically never actually touched a typewriter in my life.
Well, if you've touched a keyboard, as you do every day, you've touched a typewriter, because that's really all a typewriter was. But it was click, 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 click. If you made a mistake, you had to get your whiteout.
I've only seen it on television. You mentioned that earlier, a whiteout.
Yeah, that's what you whited out, what you typed on the page, and you had to type back over it.
Interesting. Okay. So we
didn't have the delete function on a typewriter in those days.
I remember going to writing my essay to go into my high school entrance essay, and did that on a computer. So I'm curious to know what, just have a discussion about because for me it seems gradual. But for you, it must seem so rapid.
Well, yeah. I mean, we had to suddenly get used to. But you know what?
How do you go from having a big ass mainframe to now having an iPad in your hand?
It's fantastic.
At your age, like you've lived.
Well, I didn't interact with a big mainframe, first of all. But anybody wants. Hey, listen. If you're not using the conveniences that technology offers you today, you're definitely on the outside. And I imagine a lot of the older folks,
there are a lot of people your age that probably don't.
Hey, look, I podcast. Well, we do podcasts. I podcast and I listen to them. I am probably a more IT literate adult than the average person my age.
I believe so. I believe so. And I'm curious to know, what made you embrace it?
Well, remember, I spent 10 years working for the computer industry. I remember when Apple was a little tiny company and when Microsoft was a little tiny company.
What a blessing.
Those days. Well,
what a blessing.
I wish I'd invested in them.
I was just going to say, if I only have the foresight to see a small company today and just be like, when they go public, I'm going to just buy 3,000 shares. and just put it down and just wait. But I digress. If only I lived to be as old as you are.
That's called greed, and I believe I was accused of being greedy a few minutes ago, but I digress.
No, it's called wanting to set up my future so that when I get you to your age, I can actually relax. Something that you're incapable of doing.
I'm relaxed. Do I look like I'm you can't find a more relaxed looking person than me.
I mean,
Would you
looks
not
can
agree?
be deceiving.
Well, there you go. He agrees with me, folks.
Our next episode after that, which was released in March 17th, Apathy, where we discussed in detail, because it was a very comprehensive conversation, dating apps and the rules of online dating. And I remember in this one, because we had a very strong discussion about like our favorite dating apps and Grindr. And it's funny enough, the thing I want to add to this is I was actually having a conversation with Madre recently, and he had said to me that he's going to be actually doing a short course on dating as a part of continuing education. And one of the things that I thought to myself was, if there's anyone who is should be an expert at this, it's you. So he said something to me, and I said to him, well, you know what? He said this, I don't believe that apps were designed to actually make people happy. They weren't designed to actually make people have happy relationships. Because...
I said that?
No, Colson did.
Oh, Colson did, okay.
Yeah, he said, I don't believe apps were meant for people to have happy relationships. Because if people then end up being in relationships, then they don't need the apps anymore. And that's bad for business. Apps were designed to keep people hooked on them.
That's interesting. Because they can be very addictive, can't they?
They can be very addictive. How many times have you nothing has changed, and you're constantly checking your Grindr, you're constantly checking your Adam account, and it's just like 5 minutes in. Mm-hmm. You go to the toilet, the first thing you check is your Grindr. I'm sure there are a lot of young people out there who are listening who probably feel the same way. You know, that's just the last thing I want to add to this. It's quite interesting that he said that. And looking back and thinking about it, there is some verisimilitude to it.
Verisimilitude. That is a big word.
It means
truth.
To have an iota of truth.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. We're back.
We are back. And you know what? We were just discussing apathy. But our next episode after that, which came in April, TMI, not BMI.
Mm-hmm.
Which was funny because we were discussing in the episode wellness practices, aging and
that's right.
Personal care.
Yeah.
And I remember distinctively in that episode some of the great conversations that came out, talking about what we do for skincare, what are some of the stuff that we do for keeping up in age, because I was really admiring how you have such a really nice body at your age, which is quite uncommon. Most people your age have a dad bod. You're a daddy, but you're pretty fit. And
yeah, but I got to work at it. I got to stay disciplined.
Well, that's it.
Mm-hmm. And eat healthy.
What is the key to discipline that you want to tell people, especially all the 9% of that listeners out there?
Well, discipline is really keeping to a regime and keeping focused on your objective. But this is just my lifestyle. I just do it almost naturally. Today I didn't want to go to the gym. I still went for half an hour.
That's it. I think that's it.
It's overcoming the desire to not go and then just going and getting the benefit of some exercise.
It's just, yeah, I think that's it because, a lot of people always ask me, especially growing up as a fat child, and they see me now in my adulthood.
You
they're
were
like,
fat?
oh yeah, I was a fat fuck.
You have a gorgeous body now.
Oh, thanks, hon. The girls are like, what do you do? I'm just like, even when I don't want to go, like I don't feel like it, I still go.
Yeah.
But a
that's
huge
the
part
secret.
of that is I also get paid to go because
Well,
I teach Zumba.
I don't get paid.
So,
I'm not greedy, that's why.
oh my God. Well, if you boomers didn't fuck up the economy, I wouldn't have to have 2 jobs.
We haven't fucked it up. But
Our next episode after that was released on in July, and it's called "Is There Love After 50?" In that episode, which was led by me actually, we explored the journey of finding love in your golden years and celebrating the beauty of romance later on in your life. I was inspired by an episode of the Sher Shepherd Show where a model who was in her 60s was talking about finally getting married for the first time in her 60s and saying that she'd given up on love in her 40s because she never thought that necessarily at that age, especially as a woman, she'd be able to find love. And I was thinking about it from the gay men perspective, especially because guys that I've dated, especially the older guys, they tend to not want to commit. And a lot of them have said that they've kind of given up on relationships. Or some of them have said, oh, well, I've been married before. I'm not interested in that anymore. And, as a young person, I'm thinking to myself, well, you got married in your 30s and yeah, it didn't work out, but what does that have to do with me? Why should I not experience that joy? Why should I not experience that, but yet still you want to be in a relationship with me? I don't think that's fair. And so, I'm curious, what is it with older men who have decided that they want to just give up on marriage or give up on love or give up on relationships once they've hit a particular age? And I thought it was a really good topic. It was really interesting. But the most that I think that has come out of it is that I think I'm going to call it what it is. It's trauma.
You think they've been hurt and they don't want to go back there?
Yeah, I think it's trauma.
Some of that.
I think it's trauma.
And it's not so much trauma. It's just, well, it is a kind of a trauma. It's like, look, it's not worth the effort to go through this again. It's more of a resignation and a realization that you can be happy in other ways. You don't have to be in a relationship to be happy. If I wasn't in a relationship, I'd be still just as happy as whether I am or not.
That's a choice.
It is a choice. It is a choice.
It's a choice.
Your happiness is a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
that's a topic for next year.
Happiness is a choice.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's one of those things where it would just, the people now just have to decide, do you want to hold on or do you want to let go? Because you have to
decide.
You have to decide,
and it's got to be mutual. The person I'm seeing right now doesn't want us to be sort of call ourselves a relationship.
Well, that's in alignment with you.
But it's a relationship in pretty well every other sense of the word.
Exactly.
And so we call it a QZ.
A what now?
A quality zone.
I like that.
Yeah.
Did you guys make that up?
I made it up.
I like that.
I'm the wordsmith in the relationships, okay?
A QZ.
And you know what? He's comfortable with that. He's not a lovey-dovey type, but we do lots of great things together. We have fun. We talk all the time. He's called since I've been here this afternoon.
I know, disrupting the podcast.
Not at all.
A QZ. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm going to steal that.
It's open to beg, borrowing, and you can beg, borrow, and steal anything that I say.
In fact, I think I should put that on a shirt, but I digress.
Well, we can do
some merch.
Yes, this year review, life review. I say this year review is good because we're generating ideas for future podcasts.
Oh, of course. One of our more popular episodes ranked 10th place. When They Go Low, when we had discussed the U.S. election, and we had it was a very intense discussion.
Yes, I remember that.
We talked
lots
about
of heat.
It was a lot of heat. We talked about DEI being being on the outs, and funny enough, it has even increased since then.
Yeah.
But I think that there is there is a strong place for DEI in the world that we live in. It has increased. It's never hurt any business. They've only benefited from it.
Absolutely. Diversity is a good thing in the workplace. There's no doubt about it.
Like I said earlier, we're going through a period in time right now. And I call that period, fuck around and find out. And that's what the girls are going to do.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Our next episode after that, which was in October, Grace on Grindr. # Grace on Grindr. That episode was ranked 15th place by our audience and also was 4.2 stars. In that episode, we had discussed gay loneliness, and we had also discussed what it is that we expect of etiquette from people when you meet them on Grindr.
Right.
What a really good episode. I think it's also worth a revisit to those listening to this episode. I think my favorite episode that was led by moi, The Dark Side of AI. That was released on October 16th. And in that episode, we had kind of gone down quite a few things. We had done that as our spooky season kickoff for October, for Halloween. Wanted to talk about some scary stuff, but scary from our perspective of what do we find scary. And, as someone who works in a technology industry, as someone who's big on tech, I did find that to be extremely, a scary topic.
And you were surprised that I knew so much about AI. I think I remember that.
I mean, for a daddy, I was really surprised that you knew so much about artificial intelligence. I think it's
all those podcasts that I listen to.
Could be. But, I like I said, you do keep up with the times for someone of your age bracket. We did also after that
hold on a minute. I think that the older population tends to probably keep up on the news better than the younger population, but I digress. Carry on. What was the next episode?
We'll
I like having the last
that's
word.
That's a whole other podcast. Also for Spooky Season, we discussed 2 other episodes, the NDEs, near the experiences, courtesy of you, Norm, and Noah's emergency bag, where I spoke about doomsday prepping.
Okay.
Noah's NDEs actually did really much better than Noah's prep kit, but that's okay. I did realize, especially after how you were like, I'm not really interested in that, kind of talking about climate change and being
that was the Noah's thing.
And
okay.
and being prepping for doomsday to come. It was ranked number 22, while NDEs was ranked 18th place. And our last episode for the year, Ponders of His Peanut Gallery, which was released just yesterday.
So we don't have much data on that one yet.
Already has 12 plays, not much data on it, but I encourage everyone to listen to that episode. What a fantastic episode. And the one thing I just want to add to that episode is, especially because we had such an intense discussion, especially talking about Luigi Mangione, which, I just find it so fascinating how the world has a thirst trap for him. But I will say, folks, when you're listening to us and we're intense, please. Norma and I have been friends for almost 12 years.
Mm-hmm. Is that long?
We are thick as thieves. We will go at each other's throats, not literally.
Well, but you can certainly direct some...
Strong words.
Yes, you do.
But there's only love here.
That's good.
There is only love here. So please don't worry about us. We are fine.
It's a trap. Sorry. Now,
Are we doing our prelude?
You know what I was doing? I was signing on to see if it changed the statistic on your how.
No,
Yeah,
it wouldn't change it. I'd have to refresh the page.
Oh, okay.
And I think there is like a certain amount of minutes that you have to listen to before it. I think it's 10 minutes.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and then it clocks it as
that's good,
a listen.
because listening to a podcast for 10 minutes is some podcasts a long time. Some I turn off after a couple of minutes if I'm not interested.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Or year in review. Give it up for us.
Thank you. That was great. 25 is around the corner.
I want to thank all the listeners, all 91 of you who subscribe to us.
Yes.
For those who aren't, because we've had over thousands of listens. Over 5,000 listens.
We want you to sign
up. So
up.
that means that there are people who haven't subscribed but have listened to our podcast.
Yep.
And this is across all the platforms: YouTube, Spotify, and Apple.
That was my question earlier, right?
Most of our listens came from Spotify.
Well, that's good.
1% came from YouTube, and 13% came from Apple.
Okay.
Which means most of our audience is on Spotify. And Spotify seems to do a good job at impressions.
Okay.
Meaning that
the data is reliable.
They suggest our podcast to people who listen to other podcasts. So when they finish listening to one podcast, if they haven't shut it off, then our podcast may come up in a similar listens or similar topics, similar discussions, and then it would get filtered into that podcast.
They're applying AI more intensively, it sounds.
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
The algorithm will push our podcast based on people's listens.
Okay.
Spotify seems to do a really good job at that.
You know what I would add here is how much you have learned over the last year in terms of production and the techniques. And I'm looking at your laptop. I mean, I have no idea where you find this stuff. And you've really mastered you are the podcast producer, technical director, half announcer, drives the show, tells me when I'm wrong. I mean, you are the guy that makes this happen. So I salute you for a great 24.
I have learned a new skill.
Yeah.
Recording, mastering, mixing, audio editing.
And it takes a lot of time.
It takes a lot of time.
I know.
And it's a skill. Like I went in Pluralsight and taught myself how to do this.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
But it's so amazing the amount of things you can learn off the internet these days.
I just come here and talk. You know what I learn off the internet? I get great recipes. I know you laugh.
That's something, though.
It is.
Your cooking skills did need help. I remember 7 years ago when I came over for dinner and you cooked chicken and it was white as Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Well, I am white, honey.
Your chicken thighs probably have improved since then.
Oh, they are masterful. And I'm told my fish is restaurant quality.
Is that right?
Yes.
So when am I getting invited?
Very soon.
Mm-hmm. Some people get better privileges than I, but that's okay. I'm only a Scorpio. I don't know how to keep a grudge.
It's called sun attitude. Sun attitude.
So yes, I want to thank you too, also the listeners. Shout out to you. Give yourselves a clap. All the listeners, we love you, and thank you for listening to the final episode of the year. Follow us on Spotify. Share with your friends. Share with your family. Share with your dog. We are also on Apple Podcasts. And subscribe to our YouTube channel, Daddy and Son. Remember, if you have any questions for the show, send them over to daddyandsonpodcast@gmail.com. You can also leave a comment in Spotify. You can do that in Spotify as well. Leave a comment. And that's DADDY andson podcast@gmail.com. And until next time, sons, be good to your daddies.
Daddies, be kind and generous when they ask for it to your sons.
Take notes. Have a Merry Christmas.
And Happy New Year.